Welcome to our third installment of Cracking Open the podcast, brought to you by the Sage Circle. In this series, I interview Sage Circle members to find out about their intuitive journey and development. Today's guest is Jenessa, an intuitive business coach. Jenessa shares with us how she's able to step into the daily flow of her intuition for all the best outcomes. She also shares with us how she came to understand on her own entrepreneurial journey how important it is to incorporate one's intuition to be able to succeed and thrive in business. Let's jump into Cracking Open. Welcome back to another podcast episode of Cracking Open. I'm super excited to introduce to you today Jenessa, one of the Sage Circle members, and she's out there making a huge difference. So let's jump on in. Hi, Jenessa.
Hey, Bo. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you because you're making such a difference in the world. And we'll get to that because I really do want to let people know what you're doing, because that's part of the Sage Circle is inner growth, so people can put that ripple effect and go out into the world. But let's start with you personally. Tell me a little bit about your intuition opening. When were you first aware of it? Talk to me a little bit about that development.
Oh, man. I think I knew my whole life. It's just, I think I pushed it back a lot. I mean, I always kind of got these intuitive hits, like go left, not right, like like the little things. But if you don't mind, I would love to tell you a story of the biggest intuition hit that saved my life.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Okay. So my kids were younger. My youngest daughter was probably a little over a year old, and my son was probably like 6. We were in the car on the highway, and my daughter had just learned how to unbuckle the her car seat at her chest, right? Yeah, she's going, yep.
Mm-hmm.
So regardless of like twisting it, turning it, and like trying to make it so she can't get at it, she got at it anyways. And on the highway, unbuckled it. And I was like, and now my son, we had a pretty big SUV. So my son was on one side, she was on the other. He couldn't reach her to get it buckled.
Okay.
So I was like, I'll just pull over on the breakdown lane and buckle it real quick and be done. And then I put my blinker on and I said, nope, I'm going to wait. There's a way station right up the street, like not even a mile down the road. So I knew that as long as she stayed seated for like 30 more seconds, we were good.
Yeah, exactly.
And not 5 seconds after I made that decision, a car came down the breakdown lane at like 120 miles an hour. Followed by a state trooper. So if I had pulled over, I get chills every time I tell the story. If I had pulled over when I said I was going to, all 3 of us would be dead.
Oh,
and yeah. And it's still like, that's the biggest, the most impactful intuition to save myself and my kids that I've ever gotten. But I always have these little things, or I'll just randomly go a different way sometimes. I don't know why. Sometimes I do know why because I find out later. Sometimes I don't ever know why. But yeah, I've always had that in me. And now, what's different now? And why am I leaning more into it now? I've been on, an entrepreneurial journey for a few years now. And in doing that, you automatically, expand, you evolve, you grow, and realizing that, I can use this for myself to make my own life better and for others to help make their lives better. It puts me in flow to listen to my intuition more and leads me in the right direction. It's like little breadcrumbs from the universe is what I call my intuition.
It's perfect. That's what I call it too. It's like breadcrumbs, and they just drop them in front of you. First off, as a mom, listening to that story, I know for a fact that you could not shake that off for at least 24 hours.
Yeah, no, I still to this day, even just telling the story, just, whew.
Yeah, it gives you chills. And I think what's really exciting for me to hear is you listening to it.
Yeah.
Because so many people fight it. Yeah. So many people are like, nah. and they let it go, but you're listening to the breadcrumbs.
Yeah.
So how often would you say that you sit down to focus in? I mean, because breadcrumbs drop and we listen to them and we pay attention to our intuition, and then thus life flows better. Your
Hmm.
beautiful little girl's still here, so are you. And but how often do you sit down to really focus in to see what breadcrumbs are around?
Mm, all the time,
Yeah.
all day, every day. I, right now in this crazy time we're in right now, I don't leave the house too much.
Yeah, exactly.
So most of it is more like business based. Like, am I going in the right direction? Is
Mhm.
this is this what I want to talk about this week? Certain things in business.
Do you find that sometimes you want to do something, but your intuition tells you something differently, especially on the entrepreneurial journey that you're on?
Mm.
Let's say you think, okay, well, this week I want to do this, this, and this, and your intuition tells you to wait. Do you struggle with that at all?
So I haven't come across that yet, which is good.
Okay.
But what I have come across is, when I first became a business coach, that was my focus, was just business coaching, like strategies and how to this and build your audience and all the tactical stuff. And it always just felt not quite right.
Yep.
And I'm like, but I don't know what else. But I don't know, like, I always knew that my underlying mission is to, raise women up into their entrepreneurial journey. Like, yes, you can empower them to empower themselves, right?
Hmm.
And being just strategic and tactical wasn't doing that.
Yeah.
Like, I could be inspirational all day long, but when it came to actually coaching, it wasn't just about tactical stuff. It was about them evolving as a person and as a spiritual being, which those words didn't come into my existence until, about a year or so ago either, in my own journey. So yes, it was always more of a, this isn't all there is feeling. There's more. You need to go further. You need to go further. I haven't, knock on wood, right, that haven't come across anything that's like, nope, don't post that today.
Okay.
It's more, if I start a post and it feels heavy, or it
Hmm.
feels like the words just aren't coming, and I'm like, I just don't know, like, I'll stop. I
Yep.
stop. The posts that come out flow, like the
Yeah.
stuff that comes out of me flows, and that's when I know that
Yep.
it's good. And at the end, I'm like, oh, I can't wait to share this, even though it's like Wednesday's post or something. I'm like, oh, I want to share this right now. But
Yeah.
yeah, so if it feels heavy and just not right to me, then I just don't.
Yeah. So you, in essence, then, as a business coach, you stepped out into the world, you're empowering women, and you're giving them instruction, step one, step two, step three. But what I'm hearing you say is that missing underneath that was the wholeness of the individual.
Yes.
And you can tell someone, here's the hurdle, jump it.
Hmm.
But if you don't address that inner core block, then they might never jump it. So you bring in intuition into your coaching, and I feel like I'm setting you up for this question. but but did you see people start to thrive and be able to do more as a result of addressing their spirituality and their intuition and who they are really organically?
Yeah. It really started with mindset work
Okay.
with myself and with clients and my audience. So that's how it started, talking about, you know, the type of mindset that you need, like limiting beliefs, and how to change the story that you're telling yourself, that so you can stop all the crappy self-sabotage,
Yes.
because we don't even look at that. We're just like, why isn't this working? What am I
Yeah.
doing wrong? You're
Hmm.
not doing anything wrong. You're not energetically aligned to something,
Yeah.
and you just need to shift your mindset. And moving all of those pieces together was, I know that I couldn't have created the business that I created without looking inside of me first.
Hmm.
Like, the answers were not out there. It wasn't, I can do strategy for days, but if it's not energetically aligned inside of me, if I'm not totally 100% behind it, if my mindset isn't like, yes, this is what you need to do, then the strategy is just going to blow up in my face. It's not going to matter.
Yeah,
Like, I have to be me out there and in here.
exactly.
Yeah.
So you're teaching people how to swim before you throw them in the lake.
Yes. Well, yes. And we throw in the lake too sometimes,
Well,
but
yeah. I mean, and then that's the good moment when the person, especially somebody like me, so I tend to be a little stubborn and sometimes impatient, and but I've been thrown in that lake and gone, oh, you were trying to teach me to swim, so I'm gonna
Mm,
get out and let you teach me to swim.
yeah. Yes.
And
Kind of
then
the
we're
same
gonna go
thing
in
you
the
do
lake.
with kids, right? Because
Yeah.
sometimes they're just not getting it. And you're like,
Yep.
all right, well, let's see how you deal with this. And they're like, okay, I'm ready for help now. You
Now
know?
I'm ready to hear, yeah, the other piece. And what I'm also hearing from you is the flow and being in that spiritual flow. Once you take you can take these human tools all you want, but when you put them into the category of that spiritual intuitive flow, then things start happening.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not hitting that block and you're finally moving forward, and you brought that into your business. I think that's really empowering and beautiful.
Yeah. And sometimes I need to remind myself too, because we
Oh
can
yeah.
get so caught up in life and whatever it is, business, your things, that, you unconsciously kind of shift out of flow. So last month for my lunar intention for the
Yep.
cycle was to just listen. Like, just flow, just listen, and go with what felt good every single time. So the things that happen when that happens is just funny. And I'll give you a couple of examples, a couple you're going to laugh at, right? So the first one was, I don't know if you have a Dunkin' Donuts around you. It's kind of like,
I
kind of
was
like
in New England, man. We run on it.
okay,
So,
perfect. Yes. All right.
yep.
Well, I'm right outside of Boston, so we run on it here as well.
I did 17 years in New Hampshire. You run
Oh,
on Dunkin' Donuts.
no,
Yep.
that's where I live. I live in New Hampshire.
Hmm.
So I went to Dunkin' Donuts and I asked for a sausage, egg, and cheese croissant because I was starving and it was like the middle of the day, but I hadn't eaten yet. And I was like, all right, let's go eat, do this. Right. So I get to the window, I get my sandwich, I open it up, and I've got 2 sausage patties in my sandwich instead of 1. And I was like, cool. So that's the funny one, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I had to go to the optometrist to get new glasses. And I had like so much money on this like flex spending card that I had to use by the end of the year or you lose it. So I went in and I'm like, oh, I'd really love sunglasses and a pair of reading glasses and the transitions, right? So I'm like, all right, well, I got enough on here. I can do that. So I choose the 3 frames that I want. I get to the lady and she's like, oh, you know that there's buy one, get one free, right? And I'm like, yes. So I got like 4 pairs of glasses for the price of 2. And then right after that, I was going to the store because it's like in a little strip mall, and I was going to go to Marshall's. And I was driving down the lane to park, and somebody swooped right into the spot that I was going to go into. I'm like, ugh. And I didn't like let it bother me. I was like, oh, let's see what else there is. And I look left towards the store, and there's a spot right in front of the store. I'm like, oh,
Yep.
look, this or something better, right?
Hmm. Exactly. That's a flow day.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And that's what I mean. It's just like when you're just accept, like let go of all the, how and why is this happening this way? And like in that like low vibe kind of feeling when you're just like, it's all working in my favor,
Hmm.
then it all just works in your favor.
My favorite affirmation of all times is everything always works out for me. And
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely love that. And that's the flow. I hear a lot of people, they come through the circle or different courses or things like this. And I hear a lot of people talk about finally experiencing that flow. And they're like, I didn't know life could be like easy. I had this in my head that it had to be difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, and we have challenging times. We absolutely do.
Yeah.
But when you get into that flow and just let it be and say, okay, this is what I'm doing next. Like you said, creating a post and then it just stops and you can't make it happen. It's like, okay, that's not in the flow. That's not in the
Mm-hmm.
flow. I've got to step back from it and then step on into the flow. Like, and sometimes you have to step into it a couple times
Yes.
to be like, okay, is this it? Is this it? And then relax and let it go if it's not, which is hard
Yeah.
for people.
Yeah. And sometimes when that happens too, I'll go look for inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm like, oh, like I know I want to talk about this, but apparently the words that I was going to use aren't the right ones for me. So let's go look for some inspiration. So I will, just go out either on the internet, or I'll go back into old posts that I've done or something like that. I'm like, there's got to be something here that will be like, that's it. And usually it just sparks that creative thing that I needed to go back and be like, yes, okay, that's not what I needed to talk about. This is what I need to talk about. So yeah.
Exactly. So that touches on a really important topic too, that I'd love to hear how you infuse this with your clients as well, that you have to take time to fill up.
Mm,
You have to take time out of the rat race, out of the to-do list, out of the tasks, to just fill yourself back up.
yeah. So with my clients, especially, depending on what's happening in their business or life or whatever it is, it's usually as we're having a conversation, I usually will get like an intuitive hit that's like, go tell her to do something fun. Go tell her to shut the damn thing off and, forget about it for a little while and just go out and be and then come back, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So usually that's how that happens. And I have to tell, but then I got to tell myself to do the same thing sometimes,
I hear you. I hear you. I have to
Yeah.
just stop and say, you know what? Tomorrow you're not going to work. Tomorrow you're going to go outside. You're going to see this thing called sunshine
Yes.
and you're going to enjoy it and it's going to fill you up. I find that when I do take those breaks to fill back up, my productivity, it just is tenfold when I come back.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's also, being in the flow is also knowing when you need to stop.
Yeah. And I think a good point to that is when you have been going for so long and you're stuck in that energy of push and pull, when you
Mhm.
can feel that stagnant stuff that you've been sitting in for so long, you're like, I got to go shake this off. Like you have to recognize that you've been sitting there and it's time to go shake it off now and do something that will just, either inspire you, make you laugh, do something fun, go get your nails done, like go get an ice cream, whatever it is. It doesn't even matter. It doesn't have to be anything big.
Go
Pop
sit by
on
a tree.
Netflix and binge your favorite show for 5 hours. Who cares what it is? Just something that gets you
Yeah.
out of that energy and makes you, helps you enjoy something, gives you joy.
One of the things I love about you, and I was so excited to have you on here too, is you're so real
Oh,
about it.
thank you.
You're so real. And because I think it's important for people who are out there with that ripple effect and helping other people to say, yeah, me too.
Mm,
I need to catch myself as well and go, whoa, I am out of this intuitive flow. I've been there and
yeah.
I've done it. Exactly. As a Sage Circle member, I do want to ask, for you personally, what part of the Sage Circle has made the biggest difference for you in being in the flow and getting back
Mm.
into that vibe when you need to?
Having the tribe that knows what it's like, right? To step into the place where you're like, okay, I know that I have this intuition. I know that I can use it. I know that it's going to help me and help others. So going through that journey with other people is amazing because not many people,
Yes.
or at least usually in your, immediate circle, unless, you have like a family member that is into these types of things, has this type of mindset, you need to go somewhere to look for the tribe of people that get it.
Yeah. That group. So you're not alone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I opened, I didn't have anyone myself.
Mm.
And, I lovingly joke that I knew, because I was such a skeptic 15 years ago when I opened up, And I lovingly joke that I knew a Tai Chi instructor,
Yeah.
and I went up to him and said, okay, you're the strangest person I know. Can you help me? And so it's been a development for me and a passion for me over the years to build this place
Yeah.
where people can, and having it online too, anyone can come together, or in this group of people that, you know, are this loving, supportive, compassionate tribe, which is really huge. I do want to ask you this. What is one piece of advice you would give other people that are walking their spiritual path?
To accept it. Like, don't push it away. I did for a long time. I was always like, oh yeah, like like we were talking about before, I'll take a left instead of a right, but not really knowing why I was doing that, But when you start listening and then you're like, oh, I'm weird. Like, people are going to think that I'm weird. Right.
Yep.
That was
Yep.
one of my biggest fears. Like, people are going to think I'm freaking nuts, like crystals and meditation and all this talk about spirituality. Like, people are going to be like, oh, she's weird. And then I just finally said, I don't care what anybody else thinks.
Mhm.
This is me. This is my path. This is my life. And it's going to go the way I want it to. So I had to like draw that line in the sand. So just accept who you are. Even if you don't share it right away, accept who you are and just keep going. That would be my advice.
Love that. I absolutely love that. Your clients are blessed to have you. Your clients are lucky to come across you. And tell me a little bit more about like how people can find you, what they can expect, and who is it that needs to come to you?
Those are good questions, Bo.
Oh, it's my job today to ask the questions.
So people can find me on all the social media platforms under the Elevated Entrepreneur.
Mhm.
And Instagram is underscored between each word. So the underscore elevated underscore entrepreneur. My website is theelevatedentrepreneur.net. Facebook, I have a Facebook group called The Elevated Entrepreneur and a podcast called The Elevated Entrepreneur.
And you have a community. You have a community as well of entrepreneurs that are coming together, and again, not alone as a result of it.
Yes. That's one of the biggest things, because for one reason, I wish I had that when I was starting. Like, I wish I knew of a place, and you search for them, you search for them and you find them eventually. That's one of my passions, is to make sure that people can come together as entrepreneurs and as spiritual beings and mix those two together. So like on my podcast, we mix the woo with the do. That's what we do. So, and everyone that sees that is like, oh my God, that's so brilliant. I'm like, well, it's not brilliant. Like, it's not marketing. That's what we do. Right.
Jenessa's like, I was in the spiritual flow one day and I got that message. It's perfect. So who's the perfect fit? Who should be reaching out to this community to lift themselves up?
Yeah. So people that are on their spiritual path, but are also entrepreneurs. You do not have to be a spiritual entrepreneur, meaning a healer or, something along those lines. You can have any kind of business you want. Doesn't make any difference. Somebody that just is looking for that group of people that are like, okay, I understand a spiritual path and I want to know more and I want to get more into my spiritual path and learn how to use this to grow my business. Yeah. So those are the people that should definitely join this community. Oh, and we talk a lot about, all kinds of things. Empowerment, empowering you, how to empower yourself. We talk about the moon cycles. We talk about marketing, because that's really the business part of me, is the marketing part of me, and how to put yourself out there as you. And as you just said, I can't be anybody else but me. So
I can't be anybody else but me. And really allowing somebody to be whole in their entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah. If you feel like something's missing, like if there's a gap somewhere and you're like, there's something and I just don't know what it is, come see us.
And for me, in the Sage Circle, I talk a lot about the ripple effect, how people come into the Sage Circle, fill up for themselves energetically, and then they can, share that energy and that love through the ripple effect by going out and making a difference in everyone's lives.
Mm.
And your community parallels that too. You're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're going out there with the ripple effect and lifting others up. And it's a very powerful thing. Even if you just think about it on a very small scale, if
Mm-hmm.
somebody goes out and makes a difference in 2 people's lives, 4 people's lives, 5 people, and that's what we're going into.
Yeah.
This is the time for it. So
Yes.
that's awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the funny thing is that, you know, you put yourself out there, you put your love and your energy out there, and you may not know that it impacted somebody, but it may have changed their life.
Yes.
So if you just go and be you and shine your light out there, you're going to send a ripple somewhere.
Yes. And you might not even know. I love
Right.
that.
Yep.
I love that. I think that that's a really, really powerful message. So,
Mm.
well, I want to thank you for being with me here today, and really want to thank you for the ripple effect that you're putting out there and the support that you're giving people to be able to actually do with the woo, which is awesome.
With the woo and the do.
Woo and the do. I think it's absolutely fantastic. So,
Thank
but
you. Thank you for having me, Bo. And thank you for creating such an amazing space for us all to come together.
I am a kid in a candy store. I'm so happy. I just, it's been a dream for a long time. And when it came to fruition, I live the life now that I want to live, and I'm in the
Mm.
flow. We're all in it together, and community is so important. So thank you for
Yes.
building it.
Yes, thank you. I enjoyed our conversation. This was great.